Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing a highly requested video today about narcissistic mothers and the way they treat their daughters during puberty. And I'm just going to say abusive parents in this, not just narcissistic parents, because sometimes your mother can be abusive but not be a narcissist, but I feel like a lot of this still applies anyway. So it's interchangeable, abusive and narcissistic. I'll be using both in the video. So, like I was saying in my last video, my energy is just a bit off, and that's why I'm doing voiceovers. So, for those of you who have been saying, oh, I want to see your face, we miss your face, I will insert a picture of my face. Here's how I look. Here's how I look at the moment. So, there's my face. And, like I was saying, I am finishing up my book, and I'm working on my personal tarot readings. So, this is just easier for me right now. So, I appreciate you guys' cooperation, and I appreciate your patience with my filming. So, on to the topic. Now, it's important to note that narcissists don't have children for the reasons that normal or healthy people have children. A healthy woman will have a child because they want to physically manifest love onto this planet. Even if they don't know this consciously, they could just be thinking, oh, I want to have a kid because, I'm in love, I'm married, and I want to start a family. But on a spiritual level, it's like you want to, like I said, physically bring love onto this earth, and there's no better way to do that than bearing a child. And a healthy mother will see that child as an individual that needs to be loved, cared for, and nurtured. But a narcissistic mother does not see their children that way, and they do not have children for the reason of loving them. They have children to serve their own purposes. If you know about narcissistic personality disorder, you know that it stems from child abuse in itself. And narcissists are usually walking around with a very deep core shame and core wounding, even though they try to act like they're perfect and that they don't care about what people think and that they're so confident. Deep down inside, they are extremely broken and extremely damaged. So that's why they are so abusive. They use people as objects to fill their own void and their own emotional needs. And they lack empathy, so they don't even consider the fact that they are hurting people. It's just like, I'm getting my needs met emotionally, so I don't care. And that's why narcissistic partners tend to go through the stages of devaluing and discarding their partners, because that partner is no longer filling a void for them, and now that person can just be thrown in the trash, and there's no empathy behind it. Narcissists constantly need that supply in their ego being fed by other people. So, when it comes to narcissistic partners, they will idealize people, chase them, love bomb them, and then discard them shortly after. But the dilemma is that they now have to go and find some new supply. They now have to find someone else. They now have to fool someone else. So the perfect scenario would be if they could have someone who they can abuse, who they can dismiss, who they can use, and who can feed their ego, but someone who is permanent, that's not going to leave. Someone who's permanent, that they don't have to worry about going to find new supply. So common sense would say to an abusive person that in order to accomplish this, in order to have someone who's always going to be there that I can abuse, why not just have children? Because your children automatically depend on you. You bond with your child emotionally without having to do anything. And so your child is emotionally dependent on you and physically. So they're never going to leave, and they're going to work their whole lives trying to please a narcissistic mother, which is an ultimate source of ego boost and an ultimate source of supply. So narcissistic mothers have children just for the sake of having objects that they can control and that they can get that emotional need and that supply met. So they don't see their children as people. They see their children as tools to get what they want from them. And they can get their supply from children in a negative way or a positive way. So in the positive way, they can raise a child who they demand to be almost perfect. And that would be considered the golden child. And they're able to show off this golden child to people, and they're able to get supply, like, oh my goodness, look at your daughter, look how beautiful she is, look how smart she is. They can get supply in that way. Now then there's the scapegoat, who is the child that takes the blame for everything and who the mother severely mistreats. And that's still getting supply, for the mother, because like I said, supply can be good or bad. So negative supply would be like torturing or hurting the scapegoat, and every time the scapegoat breaks down into tears, the narcissist gets some type of sick enjoyment out of it, so therefore they get supply in that way. So like I said, they have children just for the sake of having a lifetime supply of supply, I guess you could say. So yes, that is extremely scary to think that there are mothers walking around here with no empathy who see their children as objects, the way that you would see like a shoe or like a car. That's how they see their kids. It's very, very disturbing. So now on to what happens when a daughter hits puberty. There are two main reasons why the abuse starts to become more hectic when a daughter of a narcissistic mother hits puberty, and those two reasons are control and envy. So let's start off with control. Now, like I said, they have children for the core purpose, for the main purpose of having someone that they can control for the rest of their lives and that they can abuse for the rest of their lives. So you can imagine that when puberty starts to come into play and the daughter starts to develop, the daughter starts to become interested in other people, become interested in dating and things like that. The narcissistic mother will see that as a red flag that control is about to be lost and that the child is growing up, and soon the child will not be dependent on them anymore. So they have to rev up the emotional abuse. Because when a child is small, like a baby or a toddler, then yes, we are physically dependent on our mother, so we can't go anywhere. But when you start to hit puberty, it starts to click like, okay, this child isn't going to be physically dependent on me for much longer, so let me emotionally abuse them as much as I can, so at least they can be psychologically dependent on me. So the abuse will start to rev up, because then it's like the more the daughter gets abused, the more the daughter looks to the mother for comfort or looks to the mother for validation. And if you think about it, it's like the same way that a narcissistic partner operates, because it's like the more they abuse you, the more you want their validation. It's the same exact thing with narcissistic parents. That's where we get that pattern from. So, like I said, the abuse will start to rev up and become worse than it normally is. They will start to verbally assault the daughter, even if it's not direct. It could be just subtle and indirect. Like if they have a daughter that's overweight, they don't necessarily have to say like, oh, you're a fat slob. Some of them do. But some of them will be passive aggressive about it, like, oh, are you sure you want to wear that dress? Like, I don't know, your shape isn't really good for that dress. You know, you have a little pudge on your stomach. Like, and they'll try to make it seem like that they're not purposely trying to put the daughter down, but they are planting seeds. So by doing that, that in a way is, like I said, keeping the daughters insecure and dependent on the mother for validation. Another thing that plays into the control during this stage of the daughter's life is the boundaries and the lack of privacy. So narcissistic mothers will never give their daughters privacy, and they will always cross boundaries. And again, that is a form of control. That's like letting the daughter know, you are not your own person. You are just an extension of me, and I get to do whatever I want to you. So they will, barge into the bathroom when you're taking a shower. They will never knock when you're in your room. They'll constantly remind you, like, this is my house, this isn't your house. So it's like they're constantly reminding the daughter that even though you are getting older, even though you are hitting puberty, don't forget that I still control you, I still own you, and you are just an extension of me. You are not your own person. And they won't come out and say this directly, of course, but that's what they are pretty much implying by their actions. So the goal of a narcissistic mother is to keep her daughter abused, confused, and have a low self-esteem and low confidence, so she'll always be around. And I've actually went on forums about children of narcissists, and a lot of them, a repeating thing that I saw with them is that their mothers did not buy them feminine hygiene products. So when the daughter started her period, the mother didn't buy her pads. When some daughters started, developing an odor, the mother refused to buy them deodorant. So it's like, it's different ways that they go about it, but the key point, or the main point of it, is always the same. It always goes back to wanting to control the daughter and keep her stuck and young-minded and stagnant. And when it comes to sex, oh my goodness, you can imagine. It's like the narcissistic mother is has such a need to be in control. The thought of their daughters having sex, it makes them lose it. And if you are the daughter of a narcissist, you know this. It's like they get so hectic when they find out that you're having sex. Even before that, it's like they are constantly trying to figure out if you're having sex, like doing the virginity checks, reading your diary, things like that. It's like they become fixated on their daughter's virginity. And this goes for narcissistic fathers too, but I would have to do a separate video on that because the dynamics a little bit different, not that different, but I can do a separate video. But like I said, they become fixated on whether or not their daughter is having sex, because that's like the ultimate loss of control. Because once your daughter starts having sex, you have to start seeing her as her own as a human being, as someone with her own desires, with her own thoughts, with her own emotions. And that's like a major milestone when a girl starts having sex. And like I said, the narcissistic mother takes this very personally as a personal injury. Like, how dare you do what you want with your body? How dare you remind me that you are your own person and I have no control over you? Like, they don't want to see their daughters as sexual beings, because then they would have to see their daughters as humans, which they don't. So if you experience that and you're always wondering like why your mother was so obsessed with whether or not you were having sex or with your body, that's one of the reasons. But then also another reason is that when you have sex, honestly, the next step that can come after that is what? A child. And that is also a narcissistic mother's worst fear, is their daughter actually growing up and having children. Because again, there's that loss of control when their daughter chooses to start a family. She's officially an adult and she's officially on her own. So there's a loss of control, but then also that could also be damaging to the mother's image. So if the daughter is just hitting puberty and they're a teenager and they get pregnant, that is a very big narcissistic injury to the mother, because like, how dare you, make me feel shame for you becoming a teen mom. Like, now how is that going to make me look to people? It's like an injury to her because of how it makes her look. So that also plays a role in it. I've also read that another thing or another aspect of that is that narcissistic mothers don't want their daughters to start families, because if the daughter raises, her children in a loving, caring way, it would just be a reflection of how much of a failure the narcissistic mother actually was or is as a parent. So that also plays a role in it. Okay, so number 2, the second reason why the abuse becomes more hectic during the child or the daughter hitting puberty is pathological envy. Narcissists are extremely, extremely envious beings. They are constantly trying to tear people down because they are so envious and because they have so much shame within them. So you can imagine that as the daughter is getting older and she's hitting puberty, her body is starting to develop, men or boys are starting to notice her, and the mother will take that as an injury. Because, like I said, think about it, narcissistic women in general are already extremely envious. So imagine them waking up and seeing every day like that their daughter is so beautiful and young and has so much potential and has so many like boys chasing after her. It's like, instead of a healthy way of thinking, like, oh, okay, yeah, my daughter is beautiful and she deserves that type of attention and she deserves love and care. It's like narcissistic mothers don't think that way. They think, like I said, it's a personal injury to them, kind of like you're trying to one them up in some way, which you're not. Like, who tries to compete with their own mother? But narcissistic mothers don't see it that way. They see their daughters as competition and they're very envious of it. It's like a reflection of all the things that they kind of wish they were, or it's like a reflection of the time period that they wish they can go back to, especially because narcissistic mothers are very obsessed with their own looks. So if they look in the mirror and see that their youth is fading, but then they turn around and see their daughter has her youth, like at this point in time, yeah, a lot of envy and rage will start to well up inside of them, and they can't come out and say, oh, I'm jealous about that. They can't confront that feeling. They can't say it out loud, and they can't say it to themselves either, because that wouldn't induce shame in them too. So instead it comes out in negative, abusive ways. So just constantly trying to tear the daughter down, constantly trying to point out flaws in the daughter, because then that makes them feel a bit better about themselves. So pathological envy definitely plays a role, especially if the daughter is, dating and there are guys who are interested in her that the mother, maybe when she was younger, guys weren't interested in her in that way, or maybe they were and now they no longer are because she's a bit older. That will spark definitely a narcissistic injury within them. I know I was on this one forum where I saw a consistent pattern of, my mother dressed me as a boy, like she made me wear baggy clothes, she wouldn't allow me to wear form-fitting things, and that is all a product of jealousy. Just think of it as those mean girls in high school who always had to tear you down, but deep down inside you know that they're extremely jealous, hateful people, and that they aren't happy with themselves, so they try to tear other people down. It's like living in a household with one of them, except that person is actually someone that you depend on and rely on. So yeah, that is as horrible as it sounds. So I think that I covered everything, but yeah, that's the 2 main reasons. Trying to stay in control and also being very, very envious. And the most I can say, I could do a separate, advice video on how to handle this, but I feel like a lot of my videos have already touched base on it, because really the only way to kind of get past this sort of thing is to move out, cut contact, and start the healing process through therapy, through spiritual work, and things of that sort. So I sincerely hope that this answers your question to the person or to the people who asked, and I hope that this gave you some type of clarity, because once you have clarity about something and once you are able to acknowledge what the issue actually was, then you can heal it, especially when you've been trained to believe that you were the one in the wrong, that you are somehow defective or broken, and the whole time it was never you. It was actually a very hateful, ill-equipped human being who projected their insecurities onto you. So like I said, I hope that this was helpful to some people. I will be back on my channel soon, hopefully. If you are into tarot, make sure that you subscribe to my tarot channel, because I'm about to start doing the zodiac tarot readings. So I'll leave a link to that down below. And I thank you guys for watching. Bye.